The story begins aboard the Solace, a mid-sized human research vessel venturing into an uncharted region of space known only as Sector 9 Theta. Officially, their mission is to study cosmic anomalies detected on the fringes of the Milky Way, unusual, energy patterns, gravitational distortions, and faint traces of what some believe could be non-natural constructs. The crew of 36 is a mix of scientists, engineers, and a small security detachment, all under the command of Captain Elias Rourke, a stoic but respected leader with a reputation for deep space operations. For the first few days, the mission proceeds, as expected. The crew logs and analyzes bizarre fluctuations near a rogue planet, a world not bound to any star. It drifts in eternal darkness, shrouded in mystery and emitting faint pulses of energy from beneath its icy crust. Excitement brews on board. Discoveries like this are rare, and hopes rise that Solace could be the first human vessel to detect signs of intelligent alien design. But then, without warning, everything changes. At 0400 shipboard time, a massive wave of energy ripples through the vessel. Lights flicker. Gravity destabilizes for several seconds before abruptly slamming back into place. The ship groans as systems across all decks fail. Navigation, propulsion, communications, everything shuts down in an instant. Backup systems flicker on, but they're limited. Life support is barely functioning, and even the emergency comms array is unresponsive. The rogue planet, once a distant curiosity, now looms too close for comfort. With engines offline, Solace is caught in its slow gravitational pull. Drifting, helpless. Panic begins to set in. Captain Rourke gathers the senior officers in the dimly lit command center. His face is grim. The damage is worse than expected. The ship's main power core has been fried, possibly by an EMP-like surge from the planet or something else. There's no way to signal Earth. No one knows they're in trouble, and standard mission protocol won't trigger a missing alert for another 19 days. Among the crew is Ava Lynn, a 27-year-old propulsion engineer and systems prodigy. Unlike the others, she notices something odd in the ship's diagnostic logs, evidence that the energy surge didn't just damage systems, it targeted them. The disruption moved through the ship's internal grid in a specific pattern, disabling critical components in order. It wasn't random. It was precise. Suspicion spreads. As engineers and scientists struggle to patch together backup systems, a dark possibility begins to form. They weren't just hit by a freak anomaly. Something, possibly someone, intended for the Solace to be stranded here. Worse yet, Ava discovers a hidden subroutine buried deep in the ship's data core, an override command that only someone on the mission team could have inserted before launch. They've been sabotaged. Captain Rourke quietly orders a lockdown of all mission logs and restricts access to sensitive areas of the ship. He knows morale is already collapsing, but they can't afford chaos. Someone on board may have known this would happen. Outside the windows, the endless void of space looms silently. The stars do not blink. The planet below remains motionless. The Solace, once humanity's hopeful eye into the unknown, is now a tomb drifting in the dark, and no one is coming, or so they believe. As Solace drifts farther into the pull of the rogue planet, the silence becomes oppressive. The hum of the ship is gone, replaced by the soft creaks of cooling metal and the occasional clank from failing systems. Weeks pass, and with every hour the crew's confidence erodes. But the most dangerous threat isn't outside the hull, it's already on board. Captain Rourke begins a secret investigation into the sabotage. He suspects someone with clearance embedded the override code that disabled the ship's critical systems. The command logs are locked behind encryption only a senior officer, or someone with backdoor access, could have written. He doesn't share this with the entire crew, fearing it would spark mutiny or panic. But suspicion starts to seep through, regardless. Meanwhile, Ava Lynn, the young engineer who first discovered the anomaly, quietly assists the captain. Using bypass protocols and forensic code tracing, she confirms that the sabotage originated before the ship even left Earth. Someone modified the core software during pre-flight. The mission was doomed from the start. Parallel to this, tensions on the ship begin to rise. Food supplies are rationed. Life support is barely functioning. Several crew members begin suffering hallucinations from high CO2 levels and sleep deprivation. Arguments erupt, alliances form, and trust begins to unravel. The crew is fractured. Some cling to hope and duty, others spiral into despair and paranoia. In a chilling turn, one of the scientists, Dr. Kalen Voss, is found dead in the medbay, an apparent suicide. But Ava notices something in the ship's logs. Someone accessed Voss's private terminal minutes before his death. She suspects he uncovered part of the truth and was silenced. The possibility of murder shakes her to the core. As Ava digs deeper, she uncovers fragments of a hidden file labeled Project Threshold. It's encrypted and heavily fragmented, but from what she can recover, it's clear this mission wasn't purely scientific. Solace was sent here as a live test, its crew unknowingly participating in an experiment designed by a covert faction of the Earth Interstellar Authority, EIA. The mission directive wasn't just exploration, it was bait. The rogue planet wasn't random. Satellite data, scrubbed from public records, had indicated energy patterns and gravitational signatures consistent with artificial manipulation. Someone believed there was alien intelligence operating in the region, and they wanted to lure it out. The truth hits Ava hard. The crew was expendable. Captain Rourke, after being presented with the evidence, is furious, but unsurprised. He'd had suspicions about the mission's odd classification levels and the vague objectives. He now realizes Solace was never meant to return. The betrayal wasn't just from one saboteur on board, it came from Earth itself. But even as morale deteriorates and systems fail, Ava refuses to give up. She begins modifying a dormant backup transmitter, hoping to punch through the static and send out a last-ditch signal using a compressed burst format. It's risky and may burn out their remaining power, but it's their only shot. As the rogue planet looms ever closer and the ship's orbit begins to decay, Ava prepares to activate the beacon. Outside the ship, strange shadows flicker across the void, movement without heat signatures or mass. Something is watching them, and it's getting closer. The days blur into each other aboard the drifting Solace. Hope is a fading ember. The backup power dwindles, and even the emergency lighting now flickers, casting the corridors in long, uneven shadows. The crew has shrunk. Some succumb to the failing life support, others to their own despair. Every footstep echoes like a funeral bell. The rogue planet looms larger through the portholes, its jagged surface blanketed in shadow, reflecting no light, absorbing all warmth like a void of death. Amid this despair, Ava Lynn's makeshift transmitter is completed. She's wired it into the auxiliary comms grid, using leftover components and a repurposed core from the ship's long-range scanner. It's fragile and unstable, capable of one signal burst, no more. With Captain Rourke's approval, she activates the beacon. The result is underwhelming. A brief surge of static, a pulsing tone encoded with their location and distress signal, bursts outward at light speed. Then, silence. The crew waits. Hours pass. Days. No reply. But something does respond. Sensors begin to register strange readings. Subtle changes in electromagnetic fields around the ship. Gravity fluctuations that feel unnatural. Cameras pick up glimpses of movement. Fast, fleeting shapes skimming along the ship's outer hull. Too quick and too silent to be human. They leave no heat, no signs of propulsion, and they don't answer hails. The remaining crew, already shaken, grows terrified. They whisper about ghosts in the void. Some believe these are hallucinations from stress and CO2 poisoning. Others think something ancient and intelligent has been awakened by the signal. Ava remains analytical. She analyzes the sensor data and notes that the patterns match orbital scouting, like the Solace is being observed, mapped. These things, whatever they are, aren't random. They're organized. They're studying the ship. Captain Rourke orders the crew to seal all hatches and restrict movement between decks. Tensions flare. A small group of panicked crew members tries to take over the backup escape pod, demanding to be let off the ship. In the confrontation, 2 people are injured, 1 fatally. The pod is launched manually, but seconds after detaching, it vanishes from sensors. No explosion, no debris, just gone. That confirms the worst. The watchers aren't passive. Ava studies the data and realizes something chilling. The energy pulses from the rogue planet haven't stopped. They've only become subtler, more targeted. The planet itself may be a massive structure, cloaked to appear natural. A decaying orbit has now shifted the Solace into what Ava theorizes could be an event perimeter, a region under controlled surveillance or worse, preparation. At night, or what passes for it in deep space, some crew hear faint metallic tapping on the outer hull, rhythmic, intentional, like fingers brushing the skin of a coffin, and then, just before life support enters its red zone, Ava hears something new in the comm system. A low, distorted sound. It isn't human. It doesn't resemble any known language. But it's repeating. A pattern. They're not alone anymore. And whatever's out there, it's responding. But is it coming to save them or finish what the signal began? The answer lies in the silence between stars. Back on Earth, the pulse from Ava Lynn's desperate signal finally arrives, decoded and filtered through the noise by a quiet, underfunded listening post on the edge of lunar space. At first, the data seems like a standard deep space anomaly, a corrupted burst, perhaps solar interference. But one technician, Lieutenant Darren Hale, recognizes a sequence in the noise, a human distress code buried in the signal. The timestamp places its origin over 42 light-years away. He reports it up the chain. At Earth Interstellar Command, EIC, the report lands on the desk of Admiral Janessa Rourke, older sister of Captain Elias Rourke, the commanding officer of the Solace. The name of the ship hits her like a cold slap. Officially, the Solace was still listed as operational and on mission, with no overdue status triggered. The signal proves otherwise. She reviews the data, and her instincts flare. Something is wrong. The encoded message includes Ava's compressed warning, fragments of technical logs, power loss records, and corrupted images that show blurred shapes near the Solace. One frame clearly captures a long, glimmering structure in the distance, partly cloaked in blackness. Not natural, not human. Admiral Rourke immediately requests a deep-class mission response, but political resistance rises. The Solace's mission was classified under Project Threshold, and launching a warship into deep space without public explanation would raise too many questions. Some members of the Earth Council argue the signal could be a trap. Others suggest Solace is already lost and not worth the risk. But Janessa Rourke doesn't wait. She overrides command protocols and activates Operation Dark Hammer, a contingency plan tied to Threshold. At the heart of this operation lies Vindicator, a top-secret next-generation human warship equipped with a prototype warp drive, cloaking tech, and heavy firepower. The Vindicator was never meant to launch without confirmation of hostile alien presence. Now that confirmation has arrived. Within 6 hours, the ship is manned, armed, and launched from Earth's orbital dry dock. Its mission: reach the origin of the Solace's signal, assess the situation, extract any survivors, and eliminate any threats. It will arrive in under 72 hours, pushing the warp drive beyond its safety limits. On board, Captain Adrian Kael prepares his crew. A hardened war veteran with cybernetic implants and a deep distrust of bureaucracy, Kael takes the mission personally. He served with Elias Rourke once, long ago. He knows what kind of man would have been put in command of a ship like the Solace, and he knows Elias wouldn't go down without a fight. Meanwhile, back on the Solace, things have worsened. The strange tapping on the hull has stopped. Now it's completely silent outside, unnaturally so. Ava fears that something has moved past observation and is now preparing to act. Life support is at 5%. The crew is down to a handful. They don't know the signal got through. They don't know a warship is on the way. They only know this: whatever's out there is no longer curious. It's waiting, and in 3 days, space itself will crack open as the Vindicator arrives, faster than light, and armed with humanity's fury. The Vindicator tears into Sector 9 Theta like a god cracking the heavens. A violent burst of displaced gravity and blue-white light ruptures space as the prototype warp drive exits subspace. The moment it arrives, every sensor on the Solace comes to life for the first time in weeks, only to overload from the sheer energy distortion. To the remaining survivors aboard Solace, it's like witnessing a second sunrise in the dark. The vast blackened sky is suddenly alive with light and motion. The Vindicator appears massive and sharp against the backdrop of the rogue planet, bristling with weapons, its hull gleaming with active defense fields. For Ava Lynn, clinging to life in the fading systems of her ship, it's a miracle. Proof that the signal worked. Reinforcements have arrived. But so have the Watchers. Almost immediately, the space around Solace begins to distort. Invisible to the naked eye but now clearly visible on the Vindicator's advanced sensors, cloaked alien vessels begin to unshroud themselves. Long, dark constructs shaped like scythes and wings, seemingly grown rather than built. They had been orbiting the rogue planet all along, watching, perhaps testing. Now, provoked by the sudden arrival of a human warship, they reveal their teeth. Captain Adrian Kyle acts fast. He orders the Vindicator into a defensive formation between Solace and the approaching unknowns. Weapons power up. Shield harmonics shift to absorb multispectral energy. Targeting systems scramble to lock onto the alien ships, which move erratically, as if half submerged in another layer of space. Then, the first shot is fired. A blast of unknown energy lances from one of the alien ships, twisting, not linear, like a stream of liquid black light. It hits the Vindicator's shields and rocks the entire vessel. Systems hold, but Kale realizes quickly, these aren't just scout ships. They're weapons platforms, and their tech may be far more advanced than humanity's. The Vindicator retaliates. Its forward railguns and plasma cannons unleash a devastating barrage. One of the alien vessels is hit, cracks, and dissipates into a cloud of shifting, oily fragments, still alive, still watching. The battle erupts. Inside Solace, the remaining crew braces as Ava races to stabilize the airlocks. Communication with the Vindicator opens briefly, and Admiral Rourke's voice comes through. Her brother, Captain Elias Rourke, is too injured to respond, but he's alive. Ava relays critical data she collected about the aliens' patterns and cloaking systems. It gives the Vindicator an edge, but it's not enough. As the rogue planet begins to emit another pulse, stronger, wider, and more directed, Ava realizes something horrifying. The planet isn't just a location, it's a node, possibly a relay, or weapon platform. The aliens aren't attacking out of defense, they were waiting for a trigger, waiting for humanity to notice them. She makes a decision. In one final act of sacrifice, Ava reroutes the last of Solace's reactor core into the long-dead impulse drive, aiming it straight at the rogue planet. She initiates a burn. The ship lurches. The core overloads. With seconds left, she sends the message. Detonating. Clear the area. You have to stop it. Now. The Solace plunges into the planet's surface. A blinding explosion shatters the horizon. Alien ships scatter. The rogue world shakes, and the transmission grid it was masking is destroyed. The void grows silent once more, but something far older is now awake. The rogue planet erupts in a silent supernova of artificial light and collapsing energy fields. The detonation from the Solace's core destabilizes the crust, exposing vast ancient machinery hidden beneath the planet's surface. Layered rings of alien constructs, built on scales no human mind can fully comprehend. The explosion doesn't just destroy the structure, it reveals it. The alien ships retreat, not out of defeat but as if reacting to a greater threat. Captain Adrian Kyle watches from the Vindicator's bridge as gravity waves ripple outward, distorting nearby space. Strange symbols appear in the void, glyphs, not written but formed from gravitational shapes and refracted light, pulsing in a language no one understands. The crew of the Vindicator scrambles to interpret the phenomenon, but Admiral Rourke issues the order. Prepare for warp. They've won the battle, but not the war. With Ava Lynn and a handful of survivors rescued just minutes before the Solace's impact, the priority now is to leave Sector 9 Theta and return home with what they've learned. As the Vindicator charges its warp core, an impossibility occurs. Space opens, not torn or punctured, but peeled like a curtain. Beyond the fold is something vast, impossibly so. A structure or being or presence glowing dimly with slow, methodical pulses. It doesn't move. It exists. Watching. Waiting. A cosmic intelligence stretching across dimensions, older than recorded time. For a moment, all systems aboard the Vindicator fail. Lights die, screens go dark. The crew floats in weightless silence. And then, it speaks, not with words or sound, but with impression. Everyone on board experiences it differently. Memories from childhood, fears they've hidden, truths they've denied. For Admiral Rourke, it's the moment she authorized Project Threshold without knowing its full extent. For Captain Kale, it's the faces of soldiers lost under his command. For Ava Lynn, it's the quiet guilt of sending her friends into an unknown death, and then the presence withdraws. The alien ships are gone. The rogue planet is now a shattered husk, lifeless and inert. Whatever purpose it served, relay, prison, beacon, is now broken. The thing beyond the curtain does not pursue, but its final imprint leaves one idea in the minds of those aboard. You looked where you were not ready to see. With systems slowly rebooting, the Vindicator engages its warp drive and escapes. The journey home is somber. They've lost over 30 lives, including Captain Elias Rourke, who succumbed to his injuries shortly after rescue. Ava Lynn is hailed as a hero, but she doesn't feel like one. She stares into the stars and wonders what she unleashed. Back on Earth, news of the incident is buried beneath layers of secrecy. The EIA classifies everything. Operation Dark Hammer is officially shut down. Project Threshold is labeled terminated. Unofficially, however, the data is studied, quietly, desperately. Scientists argue, governments bicker, and military factions prepare. Because one truth can't be denied, humanity is not alone. Worse, something out there knows they exist now. And, in the silence between galaxies, something vast has opened its eyes.